Okay, guys, so exciting times. As we move into the second half of chapter 10, we are going to be beginning to learn how to measure different objects using a ruler. If you do not have a ruler, please do not stress out. I'm going to give you guys a couple of different options so that you guys can learn how to measure some different objects, whether it be in your home or on some of the different worksheets that we give you. But before we start any particular lesson, I wanted to do a quick review. Now, I know that you guys have become masters at your fractions because we learned that prior to going on our extended break here. Now, if you notice up top here, okay, what I did was I drew two different rectangles and I stacked them on top of one another. And what I did was I placed unit fractions into each one of them to represent their worth. Now, if you remember what a unit fraction is when a 1 is in the numerator. Okay, a unit fraction is when a 1 is in the numerator. So each one of these boxes represents 1/4, the unit fraction 1/4. And then if you notice down here, same size shape, but I break it into two different, but we don't call them two, right? In fraction, we break it in half. Notice that the unit fraction, we have a 1/2, which is 1/2. Now, what I want you guys to take notice to is where I put in red here. Okay? So what I did was I labeled. So if you notice right here at the beginning, I have a 0 in the numerator and then a 4 in the denominator place on the top. And then notice down here where I broke it into half, it's a 2 in the denominator spot. Now, as you jump each one, you go from 0 to 1/4, from 1/4 to 2/4, from 2/4 to 3/4, and from 3/4 to 4/4. Now, when the numerator and the denominator are the same, for example, 4/4. What is that equal to, everybody? 4/4 is equal to 1 whole. Okay, as we remember, 1 whole. Now down here, I want to take the same steps here. We have 0 in the numerator spot, 2 in the denominator spot. If we jump up one spot, we go to 1/2. And then one more spot, we go to 2/2. Now, when you have 2/2, the numerator and the denominator, 2/2 equal what? Same thing, 1 whole. Two things that I want you to direct your attention to. 2/4, which I put a green box around, and 1/2. Guys, look. The line goes perfectly straight down. They're in the same spot. What does that tell you? What does that tell you? If I shade in 2/4, and then I shade in 1/2, look, guys, they are equal. 2/4 and 1/2 are equal to one another. Okay, now let's notice down here. What I did was I tried, and you know Mr. White's not the greatest artist, I tried to draw a representation of 1 inch on a ruler. 1 inch. So from this tally mark here, all the way down to the 1 inch mark. This is representative of 1 inch. Now, is it 1 inch? Of course not, but I'm drawing it so you guys can see it's drawn to scale, so you can see it matches up with the two rectangles that we did up top. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna label each one. So notice where this would be considered what? This is the 0 mark. So when you're learning how to measure things, you always line it up with that first tally mark on the inch ruler. Now, what would this one represent? Let's go straight up. It represents 1/4. Or also people would say a 1/4 inch. Okay, then what does this green line represent? Notice it's a little bit bigger than the 1/4 inch mark. What does this one represent? Well, let's go straight up. It could represent 2/4, but for us right now, what we're gonna call it is the 1/2. So 1/2 inch mark. So now we have 1/4, the 1/2 inch mark, or 2/4. So then what do you think this last one represents? You got it. 3/4. Okay, or 3/4. Remember, that's how some other people would say it, especially when you're doing measuring. Now, here's the really cool part. You know that the next one would be either what? 4/4 or 2/2, or when you are measuring, this would represent the 1 inch mark. So this is just a quick review. I wanted to do a review of some of the fractions just to get your brain thinking about utilizing your knowledge about fractions in order to help you with measuring. Again, this is just a review lesson. What we're gonna do is our next video that you're gonna see, we're gonna start on 10.6 and we're gonna dive a little bit deeper into how to do it with the inch. Okay, I hope you guys are safe and healthy. Miss you guys. Peace out.